How's it going, Jets fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Ryan Moran. Today we're taking a look at 5 different keys the Jets need to win over the Cleveland Browns. Of course, easier said than done. They beat the Carolina Panthers last week. They shut down Christian McCaffrey, only had 33 yards on 10 carries, and I think 24 yards on 4 receptions. And, when you shut down Christian McCaffrey, it gives you a pretty damn good opportunity to beat the Carolina Panthers, and they did just that. So their defense is solid. They have a very, very good unit with Myles Garrett on that defensive line. And the running game is lethal with Nick Chubb. I think he had he had 100 and something yards. And then you have Kareem Hunt out of the backfield, which is equally as dangerous, especially as a receiver. They do a lot of unique things to get these guys open. So it's going to be difficult for the Jets to stop them, but they have a quality defense. They can step up and make some plays. I guess the question really is, can their offense step up and make plays against a very stout Cleveland defense? Now, easier said than done, Ryan. Before we dive into the 5 keys to beating them, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing well, Alex. Some, big things going into the game tomorrow to really keep an eye on here. We're going to discuss. And, it sounds like on the injury front that Jordan Whitehead is going to, give it a go. And I think that's really big for the Jets, just have somebody proven there at safety. And it doesn't sound like CJ Uzomah is going to be able to go, which is tough. And I think, it's going to be interesting to see. You're probably going to, have Jeremy Ruckert active for the first time in his career. Really how much 12 and 13 personnel usage the Jets are able to go to, will be interesting to see, if Uzomah doesn't play. And, really these 5 keys I think are about as self-explanatory as it gets. I mean, I think the Browns headliners to people are pretty well known, and, the Jets are going to have to contain these guys if they want to, come out of tomorrow's game with the victory, and one that they need to get.
Absolutely. So the first key that we have on the docket here is to limit Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Obviously, offensive line is a strength for the Browns. Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, very, very good blockers, and stopping them is no easy feat. So Nick Chubb last week had 141 rushing yards and over 22 carries, and Kareem Hunt had 46 yards on 11 carries, 4.2 per average, and had a touchdown to go with it. So, those two guys are dangerous. Kareem Hunt also had a touchdown in the receiving game, 24 yards on 4 receptions. So the Jets, how do you stop them? Well, you have to overcome their very, very good offensive line first and foremost. Then you have Nick Chubb, who's one of the best running backs in the league, running behind it. So, you're looking at Quinnen Williams. That's a guy I'm looking at to really blow it up in the middle of the defensive line there. He's got to have a big game. John Franklin Myers has to have a big game. They got to seal the edge. Carl Lawson, Jermaine Johnson, whoever it is playing that edge has to step up, seal their side, and don't let Nick Chubb bounce it out. He had a lot of runs where they bounced it outside, and they're just off to the races. And their offensive line are so athletic. They get to the second level very, very efficiently. So another guy that comes to mind, CJ Mosley, he's got to plug those gaps, those safeties. Jordan Whitehead, like you said, he's giving it a go. He's got to get there and plug the gaps as well. We saw DJ Reed make a couple of nice plays and, coming around the edge, and, Jordan Whitehead did the same against the Ravens. So this is definitely a tough matchup for the Jets, I think, across the board, but their defense is good enough to step up and actually make a couple of big plays here. And I think Quinnen Williams really, to me, is the catalyst. He's got to get past those really good interior blockers, and he's got to put pressure on the running backs and quarterback immediately to give the Jets a chance to, just not let them move the chains. When you have such a good running game, they're just consistently getting first down after first down. They churn out these yards, and they tire you out. They fatigue your defense. That's like kind of their MO. With such a strong offensive line and running game. So, who do you think here has to step up and make a play, or really just make consistent plays across the board for the Jets tomorrow?
For sure. I think it really starts, with the game plan once again. And the Jets, I think last week did a great job, holding the Ravens to 3 yards per carry. And I think you want to see, the rushing attack is different that the Browns have, but they still got to really, I think, stack the box. Again, expect Jordan Whitehead to really be deployed in there. And, the 3 backers between CJ, Quincy, and Quan, who, all showed some really good things last week. I think they got to continue to bring it, against the run and, force the Browns to beat you in the air. And I think, like you said, up front, setting the edge, Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers, hopefully JFM gets, kicked inside a little bit more this week, which I know we all would like to see. And I think you said it, Quinnen Williams, he's going to be battling there against Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller. I mean, you're talking about the best guard tandem in the NFL and, a great 1-2 punch, arguably the best in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So slowing these guys down is going to be crucial for the Jets if they want to win this one.
Absolutely. So take a look at the second key here, slowing down Myles Garrett. Even that key alone is like, damn, that's tough. Slowing down Myles Garrett, how do you do that? Well, you need a truck. You need an 18-wheeler. You need a harness that could hold back a lion. You can't stop Myles Garrett. George Fant, good left tackle. He's not stopping Myles Garrett. If I'm Cleveland, I'm saying why not just put him on Max Mitchell? Even if they chip me with Conklin, he's going to destroy both of those guys. Max Mitchell has no way of stopping Myles Garrett. Fant has the best opportunity. You could argue, okay, you put him in Fant, he'll have more 1v1 opportunities, but honestly, I would take my chances him against Mitchell with a chip blocker and Conklin, because Conklin, you're going to have to double team him, but now you have CJ Uzoma out, so you have one of your experienced tight ends out. One of those tight ends got to be running routes, so maybe they're playing a lot of 12 personnel. Maybe they have Jeremy Ruckert and Conklin on the field at the same time. Is Jeremy Ruckert really a guy you want blocking Myles Garrett right now? Probably not. I put my bet, I wage bets that Myles Garrett probably performs better taking on both what's his name, Jeremy Ruckert and Max Mitchell over just George Fant. Like, he's gonna kill them. How do you stop him? You need your guys just to step up. Like, that's really what it comes down to. The Jets need their guys to step up and play hard, play efficient, play productive, and have a mean streak, man. They cannot let Myles Garrett run all over them. They got to have some pride. That's what really comes down to in the trenches. You got to have pride for yourself, because you can't let these guys just absolutely pancake you and run you over. It's going to be tough to stop Myles Garrett, as I said, borderline impossible. He was absolutely dominant last week against the Panthers, especially they had a rookie left tackle in Ikem Ekwonu. He killed him. How do you slow down Myles Garrett without a bear trap?
It's pretty hard. I think that's obvious. I mean, but again, a key, if the Jets want to win this game, I mean, you cannot let Myles take it over, and he's going to get his. I mean, that he's going to get his wins and impact, the passing game, but you just can't let it get to an egregious point where it's every single play. I mean, he's dominating, and the Jets passing attack can't get in sync whatsoever. So it's going to be, whether they line him up on the left or right edge over Fant or Mitchell, that they'll probably mix and match, I would assume. But I think the Jets are going to just have to, whether it's aligning double teams with ABT and Laken Tomlinson, or, as you said, chipping with a back or a tight end. I mean, the Jets are going to have to do everything that they can to slow him down, make other guys along the front beat you. I mean, as hard as it is, the Jets offense has got to be better than it was a week ago, where they put up 9 points and struggled to move the football offensively, especially in the air. And the pass blocking was a huge reason as to why. And, you have a huge challenge ahead of you, and slowing down Myles is no easy task, but something the Jets are going to have to do.
Definitely not an easy task for the Jets. The third key is establishing the ground game. Best way to slow down Garrett is, I guess, pretty much keep Garrett off the field, but that would indicate that the Jets defense is on the field. So it's like, can't find your way around Myles Garrett. But I'll tell you what, the running game for the Jets was their catalyst last week. Joe Flacco, you have to just run to whatever side Myles Garrett basically isn't on, right? That's, I guess, your best case scenario is how to beat him, is you just got to keep him away from the football. And you know what? Joe Flacco missed a couple of big reads last week. Everybody saw it. He missed Garrett Wilson a couple times. He missed Corey Davis a couple times. Robert Saleh said he's got to make those progressions, make those reads better. And if he doesn't, the Jets are once again looking at a running game that is being relied on. Now, last week, Michael Carter looked pretty solid in the run game. Breece Hall had a couple touches, didn't really do too much. They're kind of easing him in. But Michael Carter finished with 60 yards on 10 carries. Breece Hall 23 yards on 6 carries. But Carter averaged 6 yards a carry. They should keep feeding him if he's going to be doing stuff like that. Offensive line opened up some serious holes, but Baltimore took a little bit of a lead, so they were forced to pass the ball a little bit more. Carter, I think, definitely is a guy that we're relying on here. But how do you think Breece Hall gets more involved? I feel like, he's got to have a little bit more action than just 6 carries. I think you need to keep feeding him. He's a workhorse back at the end of the day. He's a guy that gets better as the game progresses. The more touches he gets, the more he sees, the better he gets. That's kind of how I see Breece Hall. Michael Carter is very consistent, but he's a little bit smaller. Definitely a guy that I very much value, but I also think he should be used in the receiving game as well. And yet last week, I think Michael Carter had 7 receptions for 40 yards, which is a lot of work. And Breece Hall had 6 receptions for 38 yards. Obviously, they're looking at those guys to be heavily involved in the receiving game, but I think Breece Hall deserves a little bit more touches on the ground as well. What are your thoughts about the split there and kind of utilizing that to kind of, I guess, keep themselves on the field and keep the Browns offense off?
I think this is the type of game where the Jets honestly, you're going to have to run it close to 30 times if they want to win. And they got to stay ahead of the chains from a down and distance standpoint. I think last week why their third down efficiency was so bad. I mean, they were constantly behind, from a down and distance standpoint. And, they got to establish some sort of balance. And it really comes from getting the ground game going. And then, that's how you're going to slow down Myles Garrett if there's any way. I mean, to really make him respect the run and to get things going off of play action is going to be crucial for the Jets. I think you look at Brees, last week the Jets stuck with the run for as long as they could, but it just got to a point where they were down too much and they had to be one-dimensional to try and make a comeback. I think in this one, this should be a type of game where he gets 12 to 15 carries. Like I said, if the Jets are going to run it north of 25 times, which I think they're going to have to, that should give Brees the opportunities he needs. And this run blocking is going to have to make an impact in this one as well, to really give this offense an identity and really give Joe Flacco something to rely on. And, this running game is really what this offense is built on. It's predicated on, the outside zone. And the Jets have two very talented runners that they got to lean on in a big way in this one.
That's true. Yeah, and having two talented runners is a very good thing. Look at the Giants. They're going to run Saquon Barkley into the ground. He's going to get hurt again. That's ultimately what their offense is consisting of. And hopefully, they find a way to get the receiving game going. But the Jets have two very good running backs. Just keep them churning out yards. Keep them going. But the fourth key here is pretty simple. Win the third down battle, win the turnover battle, and don't commit penalties, right? Just team efficiency. The team mistakes ultimately bite these guys in the butt sometimes. And I think specifically on third downs, they got to move the chains. They got to keep the ball on their side because third downs ultimately translate to fewer turnovers. Because if you're third and long, you might make some mistakes there. They translate to more time of possession, which obviously keeps your offense on the field and keeps the opposing offense off the field. And of course, the penalty battle, you cannot be having holding calls. That is a big one. Hopefully Max Mitchell doesn't get caught on that with Myles Garrett if he does have to go up against him. The holding calls are going to be a little bit more scary on that side of things. But, how important do you think it is to just alleviate the team mistakes and just be competitive? Don't beat yourself. I think that's the number one thing. Just don't beat yourself.
Absolutely, Alex. I mean, I think the Jets last week really beat themselves. And you look at these key team stats make an impact in so many games across the NFL every week. What I just really said about establishing the ground game and staying ahead of the chains, first of all, minimizing the third down opportunities you have. And then when third down does, come to you, you're in a position to where it's manageable for you to pick it up and you have enough plays on the play call sheet to, feel good about picking up the first. And, penalties, obviously last week, I think LaMarcus Joyner's penalty in particular really jumps out and what, crushed the Jets' momentum early in this game. And the turnover battle, I mean, the Jets only committed 2 turnovers last week. Now, I think the point you got to hit home with is that they did put the ball on the ground a couple of times. Obviously Garrett Wilson hopped on that one, which was huge. The one fumble the Ravens had, the Jets didn't scoop up. So when opportunities present themselves for the Jets to possess the ball, they've got to, make the most of it, and they can't beat themselves. And I think establishing a ground game and minimizing, the amount of dropbacks for Joe Flacco in this game gives the Jets a good chance of potentially winning the turnover battle. And lastly here, with the special teams miscues, last week you're looking at a whiffed punt, a missed field goal, and a missed extra point. If the Jets cannot commit those type of mistakes if they want to win this game, I think it's all pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, absolutely. The last key here is more impact from the defensive line rushing the passer, right? Jacoby Brissett, he's not that good. He checks the ball down a lot. He's not going to beat you downfield very often. He's a decent intermediate thrower. They rely on the rushing game. They rely on the running game. So when Brissett does have the football in his hands, the Jets got to be efficient rushing the passer. Carl Lawson, obviously Jermaine Johnson, I think had a sack last week. Some pretty solid performances all around there. Jacob Martin had half a sack. Johnson had half a sack as well. And I don't think anybody else actually had one. No, Quincy Williams had one. So they got one from the linebacker there. A couple tackles for a loss. Michael Carter, the second. Carl Lawson. Lawson also had 2 QB hits. He actually had a pretty solid game. He'll probably get a sack this week if I had to put my money on. I think Carl Lawson gets his first one this week. And, this is definitely a defense that is capable of rushing the passer at a very efficient clip. The question is, who's going to step up here? The Cleveland Browns have a dominant offensive line. Beating them is easier said than done. So they need one of these guys to just showcase their dominance. Carl Lawson's getting paid a lot of money to do just that. So hopefully he can step up and make some plays. And the Jets have actually seemingly dialed up a couple of unique blitzes too. Quincy Williams getting the sack last week. Michael Carter had half a sack. They're getting more guys involved. They're blitzing off the edge. They're sending linebackers. They're doing stuff that's a little bit more aggressive. And I don't think that's going to stop here because they're better off being aggressive. I don't even know if Amari Cooper is playing. I imagine he will be. But the reality is simple here. if you can put pressure, if you just keep sending pressure against Jacoby Brissett, you're probably going to also impact the running game as well, because you just have more bodies going to the line of scrimmage. The Jets have a good enough secondary. They can man up in coverage. I really think that they should play a lot of man and blitz as many guys as possible, contain Nick Chubb, contain Kareem Hunt. And that's what the game plan should be. Let Jacoby Brissett beat you with his arm. Like that should be priority number one. Let him beat you with his arm, stop the run at all costs, make them a one-dimensional team, and force Jacoby Brissett to beat you with two very good cover corners in DJ Reed, and of course Sauce Gardner. And you got a free safety position that's a little bit shaky, but we'll see. What are your thoughts about this pass rush unit, and who's got to step up here?
Definitely. I mean, like I said with the Jets offense, the defense is constructed on rushing the quarterback, and they have so much talent across the front. And I think last week, aside from a couple of, individual plays from Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers, and obviously Quinnen was dominant, but I think across the board, like they didn't really meet expectations last week in terms of, generating pressure and getting home, finishing with sacks. I mean, that's something in this game, and it's everybody, the three players I just mentioned, Carl Lawson, Jacob Martin, hopefully Bryce Huff is active for this game tomorrow, Michael Clemens. There's too much talent on this front. And similar to last week where the Ravens were down to their third left tackle, I mean, the Browns, Jack Conklin is questionable. Chris Hubbard has already been ruled out. Like the opportunity is going to be there for the Jets front to make an impact in this game. And, especially on third downs, coming back to it, that key team stat, that efficiency offensively and defensively, which is going to be, huge in this game. And, why were the Jets zone defenses exposed at times last week? I mean, it's in part because the front four wasn't always getting home. So, the talent is there for the Jets to do it. Hopefully Carl Lawson just continues to ease in with more reps. I mean, he's the real difference maker that you're looking to try and get more out of here as we go. And the talent is simply there. And the Jets, in a must-win game tomorrow, you don't want to fall to 0-2. This is the type of game where, the strength of their team, what they built up with so much resources, these guys got to make an impact tomorrow.
They absolutely do, my friends, but I'd love to hear your perspectives and thoughts below in the YouTube comment section about this team, what you think the keys are to winning this game. I think we touched on a couple of essential ones, but you may have some differing thoughts, so I'd love to hear your perspectives. As always, let's go Jets. Make sure to like and subscribe below, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow before the game.